Have you ever felt like your brain has a broken record? You know, that one nagging thought just playing over and over and over again? It's a pretty awful feeling. So let's dive in and really understand what's going on when that mental replay button gets stuck.
Wow, this just nails it, doesn't it? That feeling of being totally trapped. You know the door is locked, your rational brain knows it, but that powerful little question, what if, just yanks you right back. And that internal battle, that's right at the heart of obsessive compulsive disorder. Okay, so this right here, this is probably the single most important idea in this entire explainer. The problem is not having a weird, random, or even disturbing thought. Guess what? Everybody has those. The real issue, the thing that causes all the trouble, is how you respond to that thought. Getting this distinction is the key to everything. So let's really break this down. What are we actually talking about? There are two main parts to this puzzle, and it's a cycle that starts with those intrusive thoughts but gets all its power from what we do to try and make them go away. First up, you have obsessions, and the key word, the really important one, is unwanted. These are not your typical daydreams or worries. These thoughts, images, or urges feel like they come out of nowhere. They feel like invaders, and you desperately try to fight them off. And what do you do in response to all that anxiety? Well, that's where compulsions come in. These are the rituals, the checking, the washing, the counting, the asking for reassurance over and over. They feel like an emergency release valve for all that pressure. But here's the trap. The relief you get is only temporary. And that's exactly what keeps the whole cycle spinning. So where do these incredibly powerful what-if thoughts even come from? Well, this might actually surprise you, but the brain machinery behind them isn't some kind of defect. It's a totally normal and honestly a super useful feature of the human mind that every single one of us has. The fancy term for it is counterfactual thinking, but all it really means is that our brain has this amazing built-in simulator. It's constantly running what-if scenarios. What if I'd taken that other job? What if I'd said something different? This kind of mental time travel is absolutely essential for us to learn from the past and plan for the future. Now, you could try to have that James Bond attitude, never look back. But science shows that's not really how we're wired. Looking back at what might have been is precisely how we learn from our mistakes. It's how we get better. So really, it's a feature, not a bug. The problem with OCD is that this totally normal what-if engine goes into complete overdrive. It's like the engine gets stuck in the red. It stops being a helpful tool and turns into this faulty alarm system that's just blaring false alarms 24/7. And that creates this vicious, self-fueling loop. And this shows that loop perfectly. It all starts with a trigger, just a random thought. But then comes the big mistake. You misinterpret that thought as a sign of a horrible, catastrophic threat. That mistake is what launches the anxiety into the stratosphere. Then you feel this desperate urge to do something, the compulsion, to make it safe. And for a moment, you get relief. But your brain learns the wrong lesson. It learns, hey, that ritual saved us. We have to do it next time. This old story is the perfect analogy for compulsions. The man never ever gets a chance to learn that there are no dragons because his arm waving works every single time. The compulsion gets all the credit for saving him from a disaster that was never going to happen in the first place. And if that wasn't bad enough, our natural instinct is to just try and suppress the thought, just push it away. But that backfires spectacularly. It's called the white bear problem. Okay, try it right now. For the next 5 seconds, whatever you do, do not think about a white bear. Yeah, impossible, right? The very act of trying not to think about something basically guarantees you will think about it. Okay, hold on. So doing the rituals makes things worse. And trying to suppress the thoughts also makes things worse. It sounds like a complete trap. So how on earth do you get off this anxiety-fueled merry-go-round? Well, let's talk about the solution. This is how you actually break the cycle. And it brings us right back to that main idea we started with. You stop trying to control your thoughts. Instead, you learn to control your response to them. The gold standard treatment here is called exposure and response prevention, or ERP for short. Now, I know it can sound a bit intimidating, but the logic behind it is actually really simple. You have to willingly and purposely face the fear, and then, this is the most important part, you stop yourself from doing the compulsion. And here's why that works. Anxiety is like a wave. When you're in it, it feels like it's just going to get bigger and bigger forever. But it won't, I promise. If you can just resist that urge to do the ritual, if you can just wait, that wave will always peak, and then it will come back down, all by itself. ERP is all about learning to ride out that wave. Here's another really powerful tool. Become a detective for your own mind. Put those obsessive thoughts on the witness stand. Cross-examine them. Ask them the tough questions. Okay, so you say this is a fact. Where's the evidence? Are you just jumping to conclusions here? Are you confusing a feeling with a cold, hard fact? You'll find pretty quick that the case against you is actually really flimsy. A really helpful way to think about this is to imagine your OCD as a playground bully. It's loud, it's in your face, it's intimidating, and it's constantly feeding you propaganda, lies that your thoughts are incredibly important and dangerous. The goal of recovery isn't to argue with the bully. It's to learn how to hear its threats, shrug, and just walk away.
So ultimately, this whole process is about making a fundamental shift. It is not about somehow achieving a perfectly clean mind that's free of any weird thoughts. That's a fantasy. It's about taking back the controls and changing the entire relationship you have with your own mind. So let's just recap the big takeaways. First, you cannot stop random intrusive thoughts from popping into your head. So stop trying. But second, you can stop taking them so seriously. You can treat them like mental junk mail. And third, you can choose not to respond with a compulsion. The real goal is learning to tolerate uncertainty and realizing that anxiety, while it's super uncomfortable, is not actually dangerous.
And this might be the most liberating idea of them all. OCD just thrives on this massive, exaggerated sense of responsibility. It makes you feel like you have to prevent any possible bad thing from happening. But the truth is, you are not responsible for your thoughts. You are only responsible for your actions. You know, we started this journey with the what-if engine as a source of constant fear. What if I left the door unlocked? So let's end by flipping that question completely on its head. What if you could use that same amazing engine of imagination for your own recovery? What if you could see your thoughts not as commands to be obeyed, but just as noise? What if you could just let them be and get on with living your life?